and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast 2025, part 2, I guess, now that we're actually in the year 2025 has started. Killer regional to start and a lot to talk about. My name's Sierra Dawn. Joining me, my co-host Joe Brown, but as well, now 3-time regional champion, none other than Justin Tang. How are you feeling? You just got another medal.
I'm feeling great, and it's cool to be back on here. I was on here like not so long ago. We were talking about Reg G with Joe Brown,
really hasn't been a while.
I am. Yeah,
it's been like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah,
the last time. So does this mean you're going to come on the pod a couple weeks before Worlds? Because like now there's precedent that you come on the OHKO, you win an event. We'll see you in August.
Yeah, maybe so. I like that.
We're about to have people fighting for a spot right before a major event so they can win.
Yeah, so they can win an event here.
And I was so rude. We also have a little angel joining us. What's the pupper's name?
Sammy. He was here the first time, I think.
Yeah.
Again.
Look at him.
I think it was good now, but
he had to make it. He made his appearance, his contractually obligated appearance. Now he can go.
He was like, I was addressed. The host forgot my name because they're terrible people. I'm leaving now.
Exactly. Embarrassed him.
Did you see on I can't remember if it was day 1 or day 2 when they I think it was day 2 and they showed the dog in the B-roll like coming back from a break, and it was the same breed as Cheese, Gabby's dog, and Gabby was in the lounge with me, and she just like I was talking, I was like, "Oh, welcome back to San Diego," blah, blah, blah. And like they showed the dog, she was like, "There's a dog that looks like Cheese!" Like she just like screamed, and we're like, "Look at the dog!" Like, and like we're talking for like 20 seconds, and then production re-put the still of the dog back up like 10 seconds later for us to see the dog again. And it was she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Cheese's birthday, and I'm not home right now." Like, so we wish Cheese a happy birthday. I don't know if Cheese was watching, but I'm sure he appreciates it.
I hope he was watching.
I wish I loved something in this world as much as Gabby loves her dog Cheese. Genuinely, it is so wholesome. It's so cute.
Yes, we're big Cheese stands here at OHKO.
But Cheese, even though happy belated birthday Cheese was not the point of the podcast, of course, we got to talk about you, Tang, and the third medal. Like, first off, I have to say this: like, you followed the same trend of people that weren't intending on going to a regional, book their flight on Sunday at a time where is very much so, oh, if I do well at all, I don't make this flight, and you win the event. So why weren't you originally going to go to San Antonio? What changed your mind?
I hated Reg G. That's literally it. Reg G last season was one of my worst performances I've had in any regulation. I mean, they weren't like awful events, like 10-4 in the 9-6 NIC. Like they were still day 2s, but I didn't make any money. I wasn't really doing what I wanted. And in Worlds, I won 5-3. So, pretty bad part of the season for me, in my opinion. So, going back into the format, I was like, okay, well, I think the only Reg G event I had planned was EUIC, just because I got the TA for EUIC, and that's all I had planned. But then I started playing with the Shilang team, and it ended up being pretty good. So, so I decided, okay, maybe I shouldn't waste this opportunity, and I booked the flight maybe like a week and a half or 2 weeks before San Antonio. It was a bit expensive, but I was like, well, I'm feeling pretty good, so let's see what happens, and that's what happened.
I mean, yeah, it's as good as you can be getting first place at that event, and obviously, like, I know we've told you this before, but it bears repeating every time. The production team behind the stage absolutely love you. Like, you are their favorite player. They're always like up there,
hands
like,
down.
Literally,
hands down.
When we do the pairings around, they like control F for Justin, like, and try to find you and like to see how you're doing because they're just such big fans of you back there. So when you were succeeding and Sheila was succeeding, like there was kind of a moment where we all like looked around. We're like, wait a second. Something very magical has a chance to happen here.
Yes.
And then when the cut came out and you're on opposite ends, we're like, okay, everybody, hold your breath. There is a chance that something crazy could happen. So we realized it probably about top 16 that like, oh my God, the Tangs are on opposite sides of the bracket. When was that realization moment for you and Shi Liang that was like, hey, if this keeps going the way it's going, we might see each other in the finals?
I think we realized it when we both won our top 16 match. Honestly, I thought I was cooked in top 32 because I pulled I guess quote unquote auto loss, a matchup that we all thought was really really hard. I made it past that. He had the top 16 buy into it, so I meet him there, and then we both won that. And we go top 8. And we both saw each other like, oh my god, we both made it out. And then we both won our top 8, and then we're basically watching each other's top 4 from there. And then the finals happened, so it came by really really fast. But the higher we got out, the real was like, oh my god, the dream's happening, and the dream did happen. So yeah.
I mean, then talk to me about how it is to then play against like a good friend, someone who, I mean, this was his team that you then picked up, you going into the finals, especially in a true mirror, because unless we're missing something, that was 100% down to the wire, stats included mirror, right?
Yeah, it was 100% mirror. I believe I did win 90% of the speed ties, so it didn't look like that. But I'll take it. It was weird because Sheiling's normally really good at these mirrors. Like every Ditto he's played, he has won, from my knowledge. He beat Marcus at Yokohama Worlds in the exact mirror. He beat Andrew Ding at Indianapolis in the exact same mirror. And he beat me at Worlds at 4-2 at the exact same mirror. So he was 3-0 in these mirror games, and then we faced, and I was finally able to get that dub. So felt pretty good to beat the man himself. One of my best friends in this game, and just one of the best players in the world. So I was really really happy to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was pretty cool. Also, I don't know if you've gone back and watched the stream at all, but we actually we interviewed Nick Donnelly right before the stream match between you starting, and we were backstage and we were thinking like, oh, okay, usually the precedents usually have like a friend of a player A talk and defend why that player is going to win, and then the friend of player B and why they're going to win. But I was like, wait, but Nick also is a part of the Tang gang and also top cut this regional, and like, what if he represents both Tangs here and gives a pro and con as to both of them winning? And we thought that was like a really cool storyline, which you don't have that opportunity to have that often. And I will say credit to Nick, he did choose you. He said Chiliang usually wins these mirrors, but it's about time Justin comes out on top. So he had your back there.
Yeah, he knows he's a day oneer, so I expected that answer. If he picked otherwise, I don't know, man.
So how does the Tang gang work, right? Because obviously Nick was there. You had 4 members of the group playing the exact same 6 that all made day 2. Is there an application fee? Like, how can I get in? Is it a secret Discord? What's the password?
Change your last name, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. Tang Gang originally started with, I mean, it was me, and then I think some of my friends were saying in chat, and people caught up to it. But I guess like the original Tang Gangs, like me, Nick, my buddies who all came to Knoxville, so like Dylan and Maverick. Like those guys, those are the original group I always went with at events. That's why I started competing. Nowadays, a lot of them are more busy, so it's more like me, Nick, and Sheeling, of course. That's Tang Gang, and I guess anyone else that's associated with us that wants to build can be in the Tang Gang as well. But that's the main corp.
Good news for you, Joe Brown.
Yeah, I could bring vibes. I could post memes in the Discord, lift people's spirits when they're losing.
Yeah, we can lose another member.
There you go. But it's funny because I thought too, like Tang Gang originally was like just like you and anyone that was fans of you. When I think back to like your first win and when I saw people start saying Tang Gang, so now it's like funny that it's this whole different thing now, and it's like you and Shiliang and anyone else that's on the team.
Yeah. I mean, any fan can be part of the Tang Gang. I think that's like it's kind of it's like a chant almost. Like people are kind of saying. I remember. I don't know how it started, but I remember seeing it in chat, and then it became its own thing. So here we are.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about this finals and stuff. So I'm going to pull up the team here too for anyone who hasn't seen it. Though I will say before we even get into that, I'm sure everyone's seen it because your little picture before you went live with the finals, it was pretty funny because one of y'all said like, not sure if we're sharing this, and you shared the rental before the finals match. So by the time finals was done, everyone had it.
That wasn't originally planned. I mean, this is not the first time I've accidentally like leaked something for a picture. So like I just took it. It happened to be back there. I thought like I kind of forgot the rental was there. I didn't know it was like that clear. And then next thing you know, I open Eric Reeves' Twitch. He's playing it. Not even before like my friends were showing me like they all sniped it. All the Europeans they saw it right away. when we're still playing finals, they're playing on live for their viewers. Like, yeah, I mean, it was an accident, but she like at that point, like, once we both made finals, he was like, okay, now we definitely got published. He was like,
Yeah.
people are copying us anyways. This team is too good not to publish. Like, Shieling is a person who's always proud of his work. He's proud of posting his teams. He's proud of that fifth team Cybertron feature. He wants more. You know, like he's one of the best team builders. You might as well show your work, right, while you're at it. And the proof is here. It won the regional. He made finals. Nick top cut. It won Birmingham seniors. It's one of the best teams. So I don't really care. I could care less about people knowing it. I think it's great. It's great for people to see the team. It shows our hard work paying off. So yeah.
Yeah, so here is the team on our screen for our audio listeners. We have the team of 6 pulled up, and it's, I think for the most part, a lot of normal, right, conventional Regulation G Pokemon. However, it's Calrex-Ice Rider on not a clear-cut Trick Room team, right? It's the only Ice Rider is the only Pokemon that has access to Trick Room, and then it's on this Roaring Moon Tailwind Booster Energy set. So, like, I remember talking with you and talking with Shiliang throughout the weekend, but for our listeners, like, what's the creation of this team relying on, this tail room aspect between Roaring Moon and Calrex-Ice Rider?
Should be Zoom Room still. I will stand by that forever. Sounds so much better. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I talked a little bit in the interview. This is Shieling made this. I was actually he was actually working with us on this before Worlds a little bit. We dropped it, or he dropped it, and then he wanted to revisit that concept because he did really well in Battle Stadium with it. I think before Worlds he was like top 10 or whatever, and he finished that, and that's like the highest he's ever finished. So again, good work from him. And he wanted to revisit the concept, but the original version that he had, I think it was Grimmsnar and Rillaboom over Among Us and Roaring Moon, and that wasn't really working as well during the current stage of the metagame. So around the Christmas time, around that, we adjusted some of the pieces. We gave the version to my senior who really, he dropped the Rillaboom, and Shieling realized, okay, we don't need Rillaboom to beat Mireidon, so we had Among Us. And then Roaring Moon eventually came out because we wanted a fast mode to beat Shadow Rider because Ice Rider hates Shadow Rider. And then that's kind of the team kind of came together, honestly. Going to make a team report with him tomorrow, so hopefully I will explain more on that. But that's kind of the general idea of how the team came together.
I think it's interesting you said that this was something he was kind of visiting before Worlds and then dropped. And obviously we're going back to the regulation, but things are a little bit different. What we got to see from the meta kind of shifted just a little bit. Do you think that maybe there was a missed opportunity for this before Worlds, or you think like maybe it wasn't just meant to be then?
I'm not so sure. I think that before Worlds, I think that so the main issues with the first version, which was Rillaboom Grimmsnarl over Moon Among Us, was I think Shadow Rider was still like awkward because you're basically really relying pretty hard on Grimmsnarl for speed control and clicking Thunder Wave, while Moon is faster with that booster, has that tail, and has that fast knockoff. Just had a bit more synergy, I felt, than that Grimmsnarl. I don't hate Grimmsnarl, I use it in IC, but it's definitely like a awkward mon to position sometimes. Well, Moon can also be awkward position, but I think that it's just the flexibility of Tailwind is just so much better than Thunder Wave, in my opinion. Maybe like I think maybe it could have been gone okay at Worlds, but I think that the team we used at Worlds was a better meta call, as Shieling did top cut with it. So
yeah, I do think this. Looking at this team, one of the things that I really like is this adaptation with Landorus with Terra Water, because a lot of times you'll see Terra Poison, Terra Steel, different types of things, and it was really funny in the finals because you Terra'd Landorus when the Surging Strikes was coming in, and it was almost like Shiliang was like bested by his own strategy. You know what I mean? Because if you were Terra Steel or Terra Poison, like those Surging Strikes still would have hurt, but because you specifically resisted it, it was really cool that like not only was this deviation in Terra very useful from Landorus, but also like he got punished for his own creation. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
So in that moment, going into that set, did you feel like Landorus was going to be the most important to Terra, or was it going to be Roaring Moon for the acrobatics damage? Like, what was the thoughts going into Game 1?
Going to Game 1, I thought we would approach the mirror the same way. Like, I in my opinion, I thought we'd bring the same four that I did, both games. So Moon, Lando, Urge, Callie in some order. And my reasoning behind this was, having Moon in both sides is great because you can avoid speed ties, you can get that speed control, which Shieling did the Game 1. And then Landorus with Terra like you mentioned, is just so good in the mirror. Being able to resist the rapid strikes, you resist the glacial lance. And if you look at the team that we have here, we have very little ways to hit the water types besides the Heart Flame, which our Landorus outspeeds. Our Lando is a fast Lando, well, faster than our fat Ogerpon. Our Ogerpon has like no speed investment basically. So Lando has some, which outspeeds our Ogerpon. So I realized that Terra Lando is pretty good here if I position it well. As you saw at the game one, I one-shot the Urshifu. You can do like basically half do Calyrex. You can one-shot Heart Flame with Sludge Bomb. It's just a very, very strong Pokemon. And that Terra Water, I think, is really good in the current metagame just because Rapid Strike, Ice Rider. You basically beat every Ice Rider mirror. I faced 4 during my run, and I beat all of them. Just because the Landorus I brought every single time. It's so strong.
What I thought was really interesting about the mirror, and you even said it then, that it wasn't played quite the same, and you thought maybe he'd play it similar to you. Like, a few regionals back when we got to see Carson Confer and Marcus Dion play the exact six Pokemon mirror in top 4, they led the same Pokemon. They were clicking the same moves. I think it was like 3 turns into the battle where we finally started to see deviation. And so it was basically like, okay, here's the speed tie here. Who wins it? Who wins this? And then your guys' match already from the get-go kind of led different Pokemon. So was there a moment too that, especially with Shiliang and how often he wins these mirrors, did you see like these different Pokemon leads and you're like, oh man, I'm cooked because if he's doing this, then maybe I'm wrong? Or were you like confident from the get-go so much with this team? Like, oh yeah, no, I think I just outplayed him from get-go with these Pokemon.
I think I was confident more in the Landorus part. He never brought Landorus in our games, but him leading Roaring Moon made more sense to me. Like the game 1, which I saw that I'm like, okay, I probably need to match his speed control, which is why I did a game 2, and I practiced getting rid of his move my Ice Rider. I basically trade my horse for his moon and get damage on his Ursh basically, which felt good. But I don't know. I feel that the game plan I had was fine. I only won the game 1 though. I got pretty lucky. I got a Sandseer crit into a high horsepower speed tie in game. Because I think I didn't play game 1 as optimally, but game 2 I think I kind of cooked him with some turns. But yeah.
I agree with you there. I thought you played real, especially in game 2. It was almost like game 1 was like you were the beneficiary of a speed tie, right? But game 2 was like, no, you were making the decisions and were rewarded for them, and also happened to win speed ties. But
yeah, I think that I realized that no matter how well I played, I felt he kind of played better than me in game 2 till the end game. Like he had me like once he set the trigger, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of turns, but I had to get so many calls right in the end game that I felt justified winning speed ties at that point. I felt deserved.
I mean, the one speed tie I want to talk about, the ending of that first game. So
oh yeah.
Board state that we got up for anyone who might not know. Justin has the Roaring Moon and the Calyrex. Shiliang has the Calyrex and the Ogerpon. So there's going to be a speed tie at some point.
Yeah.
We got to follow me from the Ogerpon on the opposing end. And you decide to go
Acro high horsepower.
Yeah, Acro high horsepower. If you lost the speed tie there, you look pretty cooked.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think I probably should just tail in Glacial and hope that KO'd. I honestly, I was kind of just throwing plays this whole tournament. I had no idea if +1 Glacial killed Calyrex from like he looked to be like 25%. So I was like pretty unsure. I knew the Ogerpon was dying, but I didn't know if Glacial KO'd the Calyrex. So that's why I went for the 50-50. Because if I Tailwind, I Glacial and it didn't KO, I felt that was kind of cooked. And I didn't know what odds were better. I just like felt like clicking it and it paid off. So yeah, that's what happened.
Oh goodness.
But your team, like you mentioned, you have Fat Ogerpon and the Roaring Moon has Volcon too. Because we were backstage, it was like me, Evan, Len. No, couldn't have been Len because he was casting. So me, Evan, and Gabby were backstage, and we're watching the finals, and we're like, man, this Roaring Moon is like just no offense. It's just like pure bulk here. Like there was some really low damage amounts that like it made sense you'd have to terrestrialize to get the acrobatics boost into Ogerpon on the other side. And we like also you tanked an Astral Barrage with Roaring Moon at one point, lived at 4 HP, and we're like, oh my god, this is the bulkiest Roaring Moon I've ever seen. So like Roaring Moon's got bulk. You got your Ogerpon you said has bulk on it. Like how does this team, you know, rely on getting KOs if so much is invested into the defenses?
So the thing is, like, the defenses are there, but like the main thing about the damage is we kind of sacrifice the speed in a way. I guess the only thing that kind of hurts from the defense being more bulkier and weaker would be the Moon and Heart Flame. But Heart Flame has Terra to make up for it. I've Coach was also just a really strong move for that crit rate and just a consistent damaging option. Roaring Moon is more of a support piece anyways. Knockoff is only getting KOs on Shadow Rider. And Terra Acro is mostly to kill no bulk Urshifu and like Ogerpon at certain ranges, like we saw in my set versus Dalway. Everyone else, yes, they're bulky, but they're very strong. Like Ice Rider itself, very fat Pokemon. We have 116 attack on it though. Glacial Lance is getting 2 shots on most of the format, right? Landorus, even though it's bulky, we're still modest because we're not timid, and we can afford to throw the speed into special attack. And it's a really great Trick Room and Tailwind abuser. And even though it's slow and fat, you're taking every hit and you're carrying up in your back, realistically. Similar to Urshifu, bulky Urshifu, with a lot of attack investment. We only need enough attack to basically KO Cornerstone and Chanpal most times. That was really it. And then the rest we just threw in defenses to, I believe it was for some Zama matchup to take some physical hits better, because it wasn't that special defensive, but it still led most hits. So yeah.
And then you also had Taunt on Urshifu. I always call that like the Shohei tech when he won Worlds with Taunt instead of Aqua Jet.
Yeah.
Was there ever a discussion on Aqua Jet, or was it always Taunt in that slot?
We have discussed the Jet. It has been Taunt since basically we switched to it. But I mean, Taunt won me my final set. It won me my set versus Dalway when one of the games, and it came up in one of my Swiss rounds. I played Brady Smith, and I almost won this game. I like read his Pogos to swap to Among Us. I taunted on the swap when he could just Starstorm to me, and it's like there's so much plays you can do with Taunt. I love Taunt. I used it in Knoxville last year as well in the Taunt Flutter main. It's just like Taunt has so many just particular situations where you can just click the shutdown support options, or you can make like really cool reads. It's a really great utility option. You can also shut down Trick Room. I faced a Ice Rider Mirror in my top 8, and he always had practice getting my Ursh or like follow me away it, so I can't taunt the Trick Room setter because he was a hard Trick Room team. So there's just so many scenarios you can shut down support with Trick Room, redirection, Among Us, setup. It's just a really good option.
All right, the last thing I want to talk about with this team, unless Joe Brown has a follow-up question, but where this team goes from here. Thought this was funny that we got to see this coming out from none other than Michael Kelsch, talking about the best team in the meta, which, unbeknownst, ended up being very, very similar to the team that you and Chili Yang and everyone else ran. And, quote, he said too, but EUIC's waiting for me. Now EUIC is in a couple of weeks. You won with the team. Chili Yang got second with the team, and the rental is out there. So where do you think, because you're also competing in EUIC,
Yes.
Is the team just cooked now? Do you got to figure something else out?
Back to Wochien, baby.
Back to Wochien? I don't know. I haven't had the chance to play the game since San Antonio. I know the Global Challenge is this weekend, so I might use that as a small testing ground. But I don't think the team's cooked. The only issue now is people know the tech pieces, especially, I think the big one is Impish Ogerpon. If you now see the team you know is Impish Ogerpon, I think that one day it's going to know you can like Terra Rock, KO it instead, because now it's like, okay, I'm a Terra Rock because you lived my heavy cudgel before, now you don't. Stuff like that's annoying. Or certain speed interactions, it's like, I was able to beat, going to a Brady one round. He had no idea the game one that my Lando was slower than his Ursh, so he's playing around the whole time. But once you figure out, he's like, oh my god, wait, what? And it's like, you have so many cool speed interactions where people just had no idea. It caught everyone in San Antonio by surprise. Surprise is a big factor to winning certain games, like a game 1 or a game 2. And I think you can still get away with it because the Pokemon are still strong, but maybe some of the spreads could be tweaked. Or maybe some of the Pokemon, I'm not so sure yet. It's something we probably got to test out more, but I'm probably sticking with Ice Rider in some way for him. It's strong. It's good.
Good.
So yeah.
Finally, everybody's figuring it out. People are dogging Ice Rider for weeks and weeks, and
who would do that, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. And then it was, I think it was 24 Ice Riders in day 2 was the most used restricted in day 2, and then also no Mireidon made cut with 20 plus players or whatever that made it into cut. Like, what were your thoughts of that with Mireidon? One, like your team specific Mireidon matchup, how'd you guys handle that? But then also the lack of Mireidon converting into cut.
Well, I mean, I knocked out the last Mireidon. I placed Chase for my win in at 8-2. So it felt good to have a Mireidon matchup. Before that, I faced two other Mireidon Swiss. I faced Trista and Ellie on Mireidon variants, like the one that won Worlds, and there's a Chiyu variant. Mireidon, it's never a free matchup with Calrex-Ice. I think that I do have Landorus and Among Us, so I can play like really those pieces really smart. But sometimes Mireidon can get out of hand if you kind of get the speed orders wrong, or if you set up or if you lose Trick Room at the wrong time, or you don't have enough tailwind turns, because you can also call them a Roaring Moon. You can sometimes lead it if you expect no one's to cut, but they do lead it. It's like kind of a bad thing, right? So
Yeah.
a bit of a mode guessing. I found that the easiest version of Around the Face was there was a few variants with Darker Shifu instead of Rapid Strike going around, and that's why I wanted to pull, because I'm Fairy Ice Rider, so that made it pretty easy. But besides that, I was okay facing Mireidon. I beat all of them, but I wouldn't say it was like crazy free, but it's not one of my harder matchups, so I think that it's playable.
The fall of Mireidon for this tournament, I think, is absolutely hilarious. So pulling up usage, this was day 1 of our top 8 restricted. And reminder, Mireidon won the very first Reg G event ever. Also won Worlds. Like, this is a
and
strong
Birmingham
Pokemon.
last week.
Yeah, like this Pokemon, like, it's definitely not one to get miscounted, right?
Right.
So it goes from the top usage for day 1, even though, the other horses are trailing behind, like, pretty okay. Zamazenta being, honorary horse on that. And then we get into day 2. And look at this fall from grace. Only
Wow.
8% in day 2. And the Calrex-Ice Rider went from 16 to 24. And like even other things as well. Kyogre, correct me if
Kyogre
I'm
being
wrong.
higher than Mireidon's really shocking to me.
I don't think I've ever seen it in second place on usage.
I think one thing has to do with the building groups for this event. Like 4 of my group used Ice Rider, top usage. I know Stefan Mott's group, I think their whole group day 2 of Kyogre, and he was undefeated for a bit, I know, in Swiss. So Kyogre strong performance there. And then people also copying the Oliver team also did well. And there's Shrejic and Shane also using it. Like some people using Kyogre, which makes sense because it just did well at Birmingham. I think for Mireidon, a lot of the I think I was talking to some Europeans, like a lot of like the top players in the US, they don't all use Mireidon. I think it's really just like Aaron Trailer and like Rajon are like some good examples, and I guess like Riley and Chase. But that's only 4 compared to I guess like everyone else. Because a European won Mireidon Worlds, right? It just won Birmingham, but probably has to do with the player base, in my opinion. I don't think Mireidon's bad. It's still broken in my opinion. It just wasn't his tournament because everyone else kind of brought like a more unique meta call, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then I would say that the Kyogre usage, because that's also massive. That was one of the big stories throughout the weekend. Was like we're going back to primals. Like we're having sun and rain teams showing up all over the place, and it would make sense that Kyogre is allowed to be on the rise as Mireidon is descending, right? Because like if Mireidon is succeeding, that likely means that Kyogre is not, and like that might be a little too simplified, especially if you tear into a grass type or whatever. Like Stefan's team was like pure anti-Mireidon. There was grass types. There was like 3 Terra grass as well as a ground. Like they're just like I'm not allowing
ground Rilla in the
yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like I'm not allowing this Mireidon to volt switch on me. So there was just so much Mireidon hate, which I think is what we saw in the beginning of Reg G and some of the other events. Is there was so much Ice Rider hate that's why it kept going down. So it's just kind of like the most popular person's just getting dunked on, and then now I'm sure the next event, like EUIC, might have lesser Ice Rider stats because everyone's going to be preparing, and then Mireidon and Evan are going to be licking their chops. Did you see the Evan segment they posted on the Play Pokemon Twitter? His rant about Mireidon?
No, I have not. I have not seen this.
So I did this thing with all 4 of the casters for the weekend. When we got into cut, first it was Rosemary and Len, and I gave them an opportunity. I said, because we all had predictions at the beginning, and I was like, you can change your prediction right now and like change the restrict that you think is going to win. And so, for example, there was only 1 Groudon left, and Rosemary chose Groudon at the beginning of the weekend, and so I was like, you can change your opinion now. You have a 1 in 20 chance or whatever. And so she swapped over to Kyogre because there were more Kyogres left, right? And then, so by the time I think it was top 8 happened or whatever, I had Evan and Gabby in the lounge. And at that point, Mireidon's out, and Gabby, yes, Ice Rider, so she's in on Ice Rider. And I'm like, Evan, Mireidon literally cannot win this event. Would you like to change your prediction on which restricted? And he goes off. You can watch on the Play Pokemon Twitter. They posted it, and he's like, "I'm sticking with Mireidon, baby. It's not our week, but we're going to EUIC and Mireidon State, and we're going to Atlanta, and we're going to like all." He just lists every single event on the schedule. He was like, "Mireidon's number 1," and I was like, it was just magic. It was hilarious.
I'll make sure to watch it after this. That sounds funny.
I mean, I got bad news for Mireidon believers, because Mireidon's always, when we look at the 2 Pokemon, like the 2 legendaries coming out, Scarlet and Violet, the 2 box ones, it's always been Mireidon that has been in the lead, and I got upstaged by its little brother.
had a glow up this weekend. I think it was on stream like 4 or 5 separate rounds.
Yeah, it was a lot. There's like 1 in Swiss, right? Or 2 in Swiss.
And I think it was 2 in Swiss, yeah.
Yeah, the mirror. It's a mirror. I remember that, yeah. And then there's 2 in Cut.
For Swiss, when you scroll down here, there's a lot
Paz versus Zachary
Day
Weed.
2. We had a lot of sun in general, and we ended up having
Zhang.
3 on day 1.
Hey, Michael Zhang, right? Oh, we had a lot
Michael
of
Zhang
right.
with his Sun Bros core of Koraidon and 4 Protosynthesis Mons.
Yeah, he destroyed me. I when I saw his team, I didn't know how to face it.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
there was a lot of sun for this event, and then like Koraidon, I mean, there's been like, no, like the sun isn't that good, or Koraidon isn't that good. And even if it had a lot less representation in terms of how many competed overall, like it converted like decently well. Like so those are the only 2 in the top cut, but being able to respectively get top 4 and then a 5th place, like considering this Pokemon's been falling behind for a while, that's pretty good.
Yep, I agree.
Right?
Yeah. Other stuff, we did get the like this team was nuts, by the way.
Dawe was crazy.
Dawe's team, oh my god. First off, Tang, you actually, like, when we're looking at this team, let me pull up this team. First off, this team is cracked. This is crazy. And Tang had to play against Dawe.
He got fissured
4.
on stream.
Oh yeah.
We're running it back. We got Ting Lu to slow things down, and we got Don Dozo with Fissure, and Tang ended up losing his Amoonguss to a Fissure.
Game 1. Yep.
Did you think that, like, oh wow, like maybe my run is gonna come to an end on the hands of Fissure of all things?
I was feeling pretty bad, yeah. I was kind of feeling it. Like, I remember, like, after I cleaned our Urshifu KO on the Ogerpon, I was like, okay, I think I win now, because I still have healthy Urshifu. But then I get crit, and then I get fissured, and I'm like, oh no, this is really bad now. So it was looking pretty cooked, but I think my adjustments game 2 and game 3 were how I was able to win. Like, dropping the Calrex was definitely the move on how to beat this matchup. Like, Dawe, really cool team. Not fun to play against, though, especially my team. That was one of the most stressful games I've had in a long time. Just a very back and forth set. I had to get maybe like 2 or 3 really big reads right in both those games. And even then, it was just like, it was never an easy matchup. I think I even got lucky in the game for a Dodge Ruination, which I think mattered. But I think it comes back from the Fissure and the crit from game 1, so I'll take it.
Even out the luck a little bit.
Yeah, even out
right?
the field, yeah.
What is so cool about this team is, like, when I very, very, like, at the beginning of starting to play VGC, I had seen all these, like, this field status, like, moves, right? You see these Stealth Rocks, you see Spikes, you see, like, all of this stuff, and Sticky Web. And you get into doubles VGC, and it's like, no, we don't really use these things. It's like, okay, but why? You know, and metas, sometimes we'll see them pop up here and there, but from as long as I've played VGC, this has never really been a thing. So I thought it was so cool, despite how annoying this team is to play against. I thought that was just a really cool concept of, okay, well, this is a bit more anti-meta. We're going to get the Stealth Rock. We have the Yawn on our solo Dondozo here to, like, force you to pivot. So you're going to be constantly taking this damage. Like, this was, I don't know. This, I think, of course, you have to get lucky when it's things like the fissures and whatnot, but to kind of like slow things down. The game plays at your pace. And then the first time we saw Dawei on broadcast, like they ended up playing a more faster mode with the team. I think it was like Whimsicott Ogerpon lead, and just like they have a really aggressive core here. It's not just about the Dondozo Tinglu. Like this was, I loved this call. Like this was cool.
Yeah, really, really smart call. Dawei always makes the most interesting teams.
Yeah.
Always been on this Tinglu Dozo core too since Reg C. So yeah, one of the best team builders, and it's really cool to see Dawei success this season. Top 4 Baltimore, topping up another top 4 here. Really great team builder.
Yeah, I remember I talked with Dawei when they won round 11 on stream. And I was like, is this like an offensive team? Is this a defensive team? Like, how do you do this? And it was like, before this round, I brought Tinglu Zondozo every single match, and then I didn't bring them at all because they didn't have a Shadow Rider resist. So I just brought Shadow Rider tail and it just destroyed everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I guess you don't need to fissure if Shadow Rider's gonna one hit anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, works out. So yeah, that was crazy. And like other things at the top cut, we got an Umbreon in top 4. That was also that was the other side of the bracket. Chileang had to take Andrew down.
Yep.
Yeah, there was the that's Choice Band on Entei, right? On the
shot
and it one shot the Hearthflame, right?
And the Landorus, and then the Hearthflame, and the Calrex. Got all the KOs that game 1.
I was getting a little worried for the Tang v Tang finals here
Okay,
when I saw this Entei putting in work.
Oh yeah, no, Chileang did not play that game well at all. He even said himself, like he actually would have lost the game too if he didn't dodge the Draco. So it would have been me and Andrew in finals. I mean, I'm sure it'd been cool to face Andrew, but the Tang finals, that's what we wanted, right?
Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a cool team. I found that Chileang's gameplay he did game 3 should have been the gameplay he did every game. Just because that Entei was going crazy for a while.
I feel like Entei is just one of those stat check Pokemon that like sometimes like you have an answer or you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Especially like with that inner focus and
because it's such
boosted.
low usage that you're not building like hardcore counters around it. The way that people building around the restricteds that are used. So like you could just very easily have brought a team that didn't have a great Choice Band Entei matchup, and now you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I mean, I think our Karana matchup's like fine. I think we actually both end up losing to Karana at least once in Swiss, but he's got to kind of play smart around the damage because they're always moving first is the issue. If you're not bringing Moon, because Moon is awkward to bring if they have the Flutter main. So you just gotta play your pieces really defensively in a way, and make sure they don't claim like too many KOs.
Now, I do want to ask your thoughts on the Ogerpon Cornerstone. Me and Rose love that variant of it, and there were 3 in Top Cut. By the way, remember at Worlds, all 4 forms of Ogerpon made Top Cut?
Yep.
Only Hearthflame and Cornerstone. Essentially the only ones represented this weekend. I think Hearthstone was like 20% on day 2, maybe 22 or something, and the Cornerstone was 14%. So I think a lot of people are, not coming around to it, but understanding the Cornerstone utility of the inherent sturdy helping out. And it doesn't have to be on Trick Room team. Like you can see on Andrew's team and you see on Luca Paz's team. Like, yes, it's great on those Ice Rider teams that you want to redirect with it if you want to have that and the Moongage or something. But like you can use Cornerstone and it's base 110 speed. Rock Ivy Cudgel is a really good offensive typing, especially when it crits. So like I hope people continue to see the light and move on and choose Cornerstone.
So I really hope Cornerstone is not going to be the official art for NAIC.
Oh, I would be so happy,
I think it's going to be. I think it'll be pretty ugly.
You like the gray?
This ever since the EUIC stuff came out. So for the very first event, we had the Hearthflame, and then for LASC we had Hearthflame. For EUIC, it is
Wellspring.
And then, so it's like, we only have 3 ICs now because rest in peace, OCIC. You're so terribly missed. I wish every year we get OCIC back. But we only have 3, and there's 4 different Ogerpon forms. And I think that there's going to be Teal Mask for NAIC because that is like the OG. Like, that's everyone's girl. But then people are like, well, no, because it's base form, so it has to be the Cornerstone. But I think that if you're looking at popularity of the 2, not on any competitive aspect because they care about a little bit more than that, but like on a a branding aspect, I would think Teal Mask is infinitely more popular. So,
And Teal Mask is also infinitely more popular in the trading card game too. It's a
Yeah.
massive card.
Maybe that's a fair point.
I think it's going to be Cornerstone, and then you save Teal Mask as the iconic form for Worlds. Like, it's like chilling next to Pikachu in Anaheim or something. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You have 3
that's good,
ICs for 3
actually.
forms, and then the real Ogerpon, the base Ogerpon, is the iconic, gets a plushie at Worlds or something.
but they never do like whatever was the IC art. They never continue on with that theming for Worlds. Worlds is always its own thing. So if we had
Right.
precedent, I don't like then maybe, but I don't know.
I don't know. It's a tough call.
I don't know. That's the only thing. Every time I hear Cornerstone Ogerpon, I just think back to that, and I'm just like, man, like I hope it's Teal Mask. I think Teal Mask would look so much cooler. But
Sierra's gonna
yeah.
be like going through the Poke Center, just like in tears, like picking up all like the Cornerstone playmat and the deck marks.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
I was so I hate this Pokemon. It's so ugly.
Give me
People are
3
like,
of
why are
them."
you buying it? I'm like, I have to. I don't
Dude,
want
speaking
to.
of, I really wanted to get an Ogerpon plushie this weekend. And so I was me and Gabby were walking through the vendors, which by the way, the vendors were about 6 miles away from the stage this weekend. It was like
Get
it
your
was an
steps in.
actual trek to get over to the vendors. So we didn't really go over there too often. And they had all 4 of the Ogerpon forms. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. How can I resist? This is my girl. She's right here. And I was like, oh yeah, that's $75. I was like, all right, well, I guess it was a lot easier to say no than I thought it was going to be, because $75, you would expect like a massive plush for $75.
That's a lot, yeah.
And it
I
was
don't
just
think
like a
I'm buying
regular
plushes.
Ogerpon plush. I'm like,
Nope.
no, thank you.
No.
Have a good day.
Yeah, that's fair.
They were really testing your love that day, and you failed. You failed.
Then there was another vendor, because Whimsicott's my favorite Gen 5 Pokemon, and so I was just, they have all the City Cuties laid out in color or whatever, and I was like, oh, I'm looking for Whimsicott, because I don't have one yet. And they're like, oh, hold on, we have one, and like went back, and like, and it was just like essentially Sitting Cutie size, and they're like, yeah, this one's $35, and I was like, have a great day. It's just like,
I thought Keldeo was your favorite Gen 5.
Oh, does he count? But he's a mythical. Does it count?
Well, I mean, still
Because
Gen
I can't
5.
play him. Keldeo's my favorite Pokemon, but like I don't know if it counts because he's not eligible.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
VGC eligible.
So okay, you're saying your favorite Gen 5 VGC mon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Keldeo's number one, but I just
the asterisks there, or
Okay,
else like
I could be totally wrong. Let me know if I'm allowed to count Keldeo. It's just like it feels. I always count, like mythicals in their own category. Like Jake-shaped Pokemon.
It's your favorite legendary, your favorite mythical, your favorite regular Pokemon, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the categories. All right. Yeah. To meta stuff. We'll bring this conversation back around. Any other thoughts from meta from this event? I think it was interesting how much Sun was around. I mean, obviously, we got to see a little bit more ground on. We didn't really get to see much last time we had Reg G. We got to see more at Birmingham. We got to see that and Mireidon at this event. Like, how do we feel about this iteration of Reg G in comparison to last one, especially with EUIC in 3 weeks now?
Yeah, I think this version of Reg G gives us more hope. I feel that there's a lot of cool stuff that still can be innovated on, and a lot of stuff from World still works. Like I think Birmingham was a little bit boring in some ways because Europeans like to play more standard stuff. But I think me and Shilang show that innovation can happen, and then there's also a bunch of cool teams here like Mireidon popped off. A bunch of other Ice Rider variants were good here as well, besides ours. And the Sun team coming around is quite cool too, as like a pseudo Mireidon check. Jump Bluff was not a Pokemon we saw at Worlds, and getting 2 top cuts down with Carson and Pato at Birmingham and here is pretty cool to see. There's so many cool archetypes. Like it's like I think at Worlds you prefer like 6 or 7 restricteds. Now it's like 8 or 9 because like everything's like almost viable. So yeah.
Yeah, I think my two. Sorry, I just wanted to hit you real quick, Sierra. My 2 big takeaways from this weekend were that like we saw a lot of Sun, Mireidon, Groudon like equaled 12% combined, but they were also Kyogre by itself was like the same usage. So I do think that that the rain teams are really good. I think Kyogre is in a really strong spot moving forward. Like I would anticipate that to whether it's the Scarp version like Stefan or some of the bulky leftovers combine versions out there. Like I would expect Kyogre to continue to rise. And my other thought from this weekend, and I'm sure Justin would agree that Ogerpon Hearthflame, like I might make a hot take and say it might be the best non-restricted Pokemon in the format right now. Like I know Urshifu's at 50%, I know Incineroar is higher, but like the defensive utility that Follow Me and that Fire Grass typing has, as well as being able to one-hit things with crit Ivy Cudgels and getting a fire boost or a damage boost just because Koraidon and Groudon are on 12% of the teams, like I think Hearthflame is like very likely one of the best non-restricteds in the format.
Yeah, I would agree. Its utility is really strong. Follow Me is one of the most broken moves in the game, and then just having that 3 Terra attack boost is like pretty busted. And Ivy Culture is basically your Urshifu. It's like a guaranteed crit a lot of times. Like it's a really high crit rate. And yeah, just offensive typing of fire and grass is really really strong. So yeah, it's one of the best Pokemon. I agree.
All right, wrapping up talks about Reg G. I mean, Justin, you originally didn't want to go to San Antonio because you didn't enjoy the format. How do you feel about the format now, and not just because you won?
It's hard to say. I feel that I still have similar complaints where I feel that like you're always gonna have like one bad matchup is my issue. Like it's hard to cover everything. Like I think that like what I liked about like the only reason why I think I enjoyed this tournament, I mean I did win, but like the team I brought, like Ice Rider in general, I feel like gives you a good mid ground versus a lot of restricteds. But if you're running like Pokemon that are like Kyogre, Groudon, or Koraidon, while they're very strong water Pokemon, they have very key flaws, and I feel that you need to have the perfect schedule to have a really far run, like we saw this weekend. I think that they're strong players and they're good Pokemon, but they definitely pull their matchups to make it where they are. So I feel that like certain Pokemon are really hard to make work in this format, but if you go for the goal like Ice Rider, Shadow Rider, like that stuff is like a little bit easier to build around, and I feel that I think like my team was kind of mostly boring for the most part, besides the Roaring Moon. There was a lot of our standard Pokemon, but yeah, I think that you just got to have like a really good schedule. You also need some good luck. I think that I was kind of gambling this weekend. I had the Sanseers, I had the high horsepowers, but if you're landing your moves this reg and you have a good schedule, you can have a far run. So yeah.
Just dodge a Draco now and then.
Dodge Draco too, yeah, like Sheelan,
No big deal. No big deal. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to talk now about you being able to get this third regional title. So anyone who's not familiar hasn't been keeping up with VGC very well, but you won 2 regionals back to back. You won your first and you won a second like right after, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, everyone's talking about you everywhere. Okay, it was like, there's this prodigy, like what is he going to do next? And it took a bit to get back to that same level that you came from. And like I've talked to you after events too, where you've literally just laid down at a hotel bench, like not happy you didn't do well at the event, right? Because there's so much expectations on you now. So did you ever quite get over those like really high expectations like that were set out? And then how do you feel now that you were able to finally get another regional title?
Yeah, I think I got over the expectations like a while ago. It's just like I think my biggest regret for the longest time was peaking at top 8, top 16. It was top 8 last season, so I had like top 8 Toronto, top 8 San Antonio, top 8 Knoxville, and in this season I found myself even further down. I had a peak of top 16. I top 16 both grand challenges for Baltimore, LIC, and Toronto, and I was like, oh my god, when am I going to win again? Like I know I can, and it's like, the main thing is like when you reach a peak already, it's like you want to get it, you want to be at that same level again, right? When I'm watching Wolf win every regional again, I'm like, bro, like I want to do that too. Like I've been there before. Like why can't I do that again? And like watching people like Marco and like Victor, like everyone that was like doing so well this season, like I was just like, I want to do better, right? I'm tired of top 16. I'm tired of top 8. I wanna be where I was in 2023 when I started. And I was able to get it this weekend because, like I know I'm strong. I know I can play well. It's just that sometimes it's not my tournament. I don't get the right bracket, and I was able to get it again. So I'm pretty happy to achieve achieve that goal.
I think you're just too hard on yourself, honestly, because
Okay, that
everybody else
but
here is like, "Oh my god, I just continually get top 8 and top 16. I'm like
I
the
know,
worst."
I know.
I'm over here like I'd cut off my pinky finger to get top 8 of a regional, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not complaining completely because it's like the cuts still feel good. It's just like maybe how it ends. Like I wasn't happy when I lost top 6 Toronto because I could have played better versus Wolf, for example, or like every other time in top 8. Like top 8 San Antonio last year, I had a team sheet error, so I put with 5 Pokemon and a game loss, so that felt pretty bad too. Like stuff like that. It's like if it felt like something just was like kind of stopping me, either like mentally or something like literally in my way, and it's like just knowing that you can, again, do better. Like top 8's not bad, right? I just want more, just because like, winning's good, winning's nice, and it's just like, I just want to do better than that. This is my standards, like you said. I am hard on myself for that reason.
Do you think now too, after having won a couple of events, having to mentally get over that hurdle of I can't win every single event, do you feel now that you've won this event, you're more mentally prepared to handle? I mean, it would be cool if you won every event from here on out. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
Do I
yeah.
think it's entirely realistically?
No, it's
like,
not realistic.
no.
You'd
Like, do you
essentially
feel
be the
mentally?
third host of OHKO because you'd keep it coming on every event, you know?
Yeah.
But do you feel like more mentally prepared for like sort of like I can't win every single one now?
Yeah. Honestly, I think for this event, this is some of the best mental I've had in a long time. I booked this flight last minute, but like I was confident team, but I went in realistically knowing that it's Pokemon and that if I'm missing my moves or if I don't pull the right schedule, then I might not even day 2 this tournament, even if my prep was really good and I felt really good in the team. Like at Worlds, for example, I went 5-3, some of the best prep I've ever had, and it just wasn't my tournament. Right? It's just like I always have these high standards, but sometimes you gotta temper them a little bit just because it is Pokemon. So that's kind of what I learned. Like, I think I prep well for almost every time I go to. It's just that like it's not always going to be that victory that I want, and that's okay. I'm just happy I was able to get it. I'm not complaining for this weekend. Just if let's say EUIC does go my way or whatever happens next, then it's gonna suck. But it's not like I can't be overly upset. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good mentality for you to have, though, of like being the ultra competitor that you are, like, not being satisfied with top 16, not being satisfied with top 8 because you want to achieve greater. But like if we take the step back, if we look at the whole situation, you have 3 regionals in 2 years, 2 calendar years, right? Like Wolf has 10 regionals in over a decade of playing. So if you keep the pace, like the way that at the pace that you are playing, like you are going to achieve the heights that you want to get to.
Yeah, that's the goal. So we'll see what happens.
But I do have a question though on that competitiveness, because you talk with a lot of like traditional athletes, right? Like Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter, people that perennial winners their whole career. And at a certain point, like I think you might have had this too. I'm not trying to play pop psychologist here. In your first season, winning 2 regionals in 3 weeks or whatever, 3 events, that a lot of their relief or a lot of their satisfaction from winning World Series, NBA Finals, Super Bowls, or whatever was not just the win, but also the not losing aspect of it. Like it was more relief that they didn't lose than like excitement that they won. And I feel like a lot of that pressure you had on yourself, especially in your first season, because there's so much expected of you from winning those first couple events, was like now you had a lot more frustration from losing than appreciation for the rounds that you were winning because you were expected to win, right?
Yeah, I was definitely like, if you think I'm harsh on myself now, I was definitely way worse when I first started. Like my first season, went well, but like towards the end half of Worlds, for example, didn't go my way. Was definitely kicking myself over that. Towards the second season, I started like getting some more appreciation. Like once I kind of got back my groove, took a bit as well, but like once I started getting some of those cuts again, and feel a bit better myself, I knew I was capable. Like it kind of showed that the second season that I maybe wasn't winning again, but I was still competing with the best again. Like I wasn't like washed. It wasn't a one time. I'm not. I wasn't just like a star for one season, right? It wasn't a one time thing, basically. So kind of learned from that, and then third season here, kind of back at it. Be able to win this. I was proving to be able to cut. Vens, I cut my first IC, which felt good. But Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, standards will always be there, but I think my mental has been getting better with every month I play. So yeah.
And now with the biggest, because I think that EUIC is bigger than NAIC normally in terms of numbers. I could definitely be wrong on that, but I thought I saw that
I
somewhere.
think so, yeah.
Yeah, with the biggest IC now coming up in a few weeks, how are you feeling going into that? Oh, did we lose you? Or are you still okay?
Am I
There you
still
go.
No,
here?
you're
There
good.
Sorry,
You're good.
sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
Okay,
good. All
you're
good.
still here. Perfect.
Okay.
Making sure. But how do you feel now going into the biggest IC now that again there's going to be eyes on you?
Yeah, after winning San Antonio, definitely one of the players to watch out for that. I don't know. I mean, my USC prep hasn't started yet. I think that maybe after the global challenge, I will have some more ideas on how I'm feeling for UIC. Like I don't have a group yet. Shiling's not going because he has some visa issues. But I'll figure something out. Probably find my own group in these next few weeks. Probably do Ice Rider again, like I said, or maybe I'll do Groudon after baiting everyone on it because Groudon was fun. um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole expectations for UIC just yet till I start prepping. But like once I find a groove, I'm sure I'll feel fine. But the hard part is finding that groove right now because the meta, it's kind of random right now. I guess after regional, it influences it a little bit, but it's too early, right? Like I feel like because Birmingham was a week before San Antonio, there's only so much people can like copy from it. It's only a week, but with EUAC being a few weeks, people have more time to prepare. So I feel like maybe in a week or two, we'll see some like more changes that I can look out for, and then I'll figure out something new. But right now, I think it's a little bit too early for me to picture UAC right now.
Okay.
I do think it's bad news for Shiliang that he's not able to go, but it's good news for us,
Yeah.
Sierra, because that means that Shiliang has free time and he can help us team build. Because in our Discord currently, Justin, we try to build teams together with our OHKO community. We're trying to make a Zacian team work, but my one restriction was we can't just use like the very popular Zacian Tornadus Regidrago team that's like cut a bunch of events. Like, we got to start from scratch, make it OHKO certified here, like with our own strategy. So like, let's say Justin Tang's playing Zacian at EUIC. We just leaked it for everybody.
Okay, sure.
What are your thoughts? Like, how can we make Zacian work as this single restricted? Do we need Chien Pao so it does more damage? Do we need like screens so it doesn't get one shot? Like, we're starting from scratch here. So any advice at all for us is appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not using like Regidrago Tornadus, you probably go like I don't usually have people have used like a Rain Core with Zacian before, like Zacian, Pelipper, Urshifu, I don't know, Mungus Lander, something like that, Like you can use it as because Zacian's a steel type, you can make the fire types weaker. Sun's everywhere right now, right? So you can help the Zacian take a hit in the rain, and then you can have an Urshifu. I think you need Urshifu with Zacian to beat Incineroar. Stuff like that. That's probably what I would do if we're not doing Drago.
We got some building blocks. We're getting somewhere.
So hopefully I get some tips.
Thank you. That was free coaching.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank goodness.
How is the coaching stuff going? I'm just out of curiosity. I know obviously you were already very busy, but now I'm sure people are reaching out to you even more since Sunday.
Yeah, so I've been booking. Our people have been booked some coaching after I won. Been trying to get back to almost everyone right now, just because I'm still kind of recovering from travel, to be honest. I could barely get out of bed this morning because I was running like 2 hours of sleep because my flight got delayed and stuff. But now that I'm kind of settling back in it, getting a lot of requests for UIC and stuff. People like the team, probably can help them out on that. Before that, again, my senior, I coached one Birmingham. So it's been a pretty successful coaching year. A lot of victors in the younger divisions and helping a few good masters out. And hopefully more to come going to EUIC. I could help other people. So yeah, it's been going good.
Oh yeah, and you said your flight got delayed. Didn't your flight get delayed till like 4 or 5 a.m. or something silly?
Yes. I got delayed to 6 a.m. So they gave me a hotel voucher, and I was stuck in Atlanta. I think I was stuck in Atlanta last year too for Worlds. It's just not my city. I don't know if I can go to Atlanta Regionals. Just I'm a little scarred. I'll be honest. Just I can't handle it again.
Oh man.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. I mean, now that you got a regional win, by the way, obviously there was changes like into this world's like years, like this world's invites and all of that, and you're invited You're good.
Yeah.
Is that something that's crossed your mind at all? You don't have to worry about the raise whatsoever. I'm sure you would have been fine considering your success, but still.
Yeah, no, it feels good. I mean, I had a lot of points going up to this event, so it didn't feel like I wasn't like chasing a world's invite for San Antonio or something like that, right? I was kind of just just playing for prize money and playing, of course, to win. But yeah, no, it feels great. It's like it's a weight off my shoulder. Like now that I basically locked up the world's invite, with the global challenge coming up, I can actually try to like maybe win it because people often try to park for the points, but it's like I might as well try to win one of those now. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Kind of get my comfort zone, try that. But yeah, this is the first time it's ever happened. Like when I won, like Knoxville, my first year, they didn't have that at the time. It was only like a certain amount of points. Like I won it, but I didn't have the worst qualification at the time, which I found kind of funny. But yeah, it's nice to be qualified for Worlds, of course.
I think that's one of the better changes we've had throughout the last couple seasons, right? Because that's Go were the first ones that started that with their circuit. Was you win a regional, you get to Worlds, because that's how they incentivize players to, try that game out. And
Right.
we transferred it over to VG and TCG. I think it's been a great success. How do you feel about because I know you don't have maybe the most incentive to play a lot of these Reg G events, especially now that you have the Worlds, but now that we just don't have a day 2 anymore, are all the people that win a regional and continue to play like yourself, is it for the love of the game? Is it to try to get more money from winning another event? Because the CP doesn't really matter that much anymore, but $5,000 can always help regardless if you already have
right. I mean, at this point, just competing. I think I'm just gonna compete the ICs right now. Just I want to do well. I mean, I did well at LIC, but I'm competitive. I want to do better in the top 16 there. Maybe get a trophy. I have all these medals now, but IC trophies, those are nice.
There we go.
I'll say that. So that's the goal next. Doing with the ICs. Yeah, I don't really have any other plans for this season.
You can focus on YouTube, right? How's that going?
Yeah,
you've been crushing that.
Yeah, YouTube's going well. Haven't been able to post this week yet, but again, team report coming soon. Recording a sheet link tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get that out very soon. I might react to finals as well because I think that'd be funny. Like Justin Tang reacts to Justin Tang. So maybe I'll record that tonight. Now that I'm feeling better. Yeah, there's probably focusing on myself, YouTube. Also gives me more time to prepare for events as well. I feel that if I can focus really hard on one of the ICs, I mean USC may be a little bit too soon, but maybe an IC, if I have no events, I can really prepare for that. I feel like that'd be cool. Yeah, I mean the travel awards is one thing too. It's I think right now I'm 4th in the race for the NIC award, so maybe I should play some locals actually. So maybe that's also I might do maybe a few cups, try to get up there, and then steal the TA for NIC.
Oh, perfect. In terms of Reg G meta stuff, Joe Brown, is there anything else from our end, or is it question of the week time?
No, I think it's just my last thought on San Antonio as a whole, because Sierra, you haven't even given your perspective as a viewer for it, but for me, I was very happy watching Justin. Seeing the Tang storyline get closer. We were so nervous backstage. Like you said, we're all massive fans of yours. You're one of my favorite players to root for, and I felt so honored being on the stage, being able to present you the trophy or the trophy or whatever, and also the judge Jen, who she's from New York. A lot of my history from VGC, having us on stage together presenting it to you was really a cool feeling. So for me, I had a great weekend. I got to go a day early and record videos and interviews. We got to debut the new championship history video for Aaron Trailer. So overall,
cool.
I had go back. It's not on YouTube yet, so you'd have to go back and watch the VOD on day 1 to watch it. But we were very emotional backstage because that was our producer Katie. Her first main event as the main producer for the regional streams was Salt Lake City, 2022. And that was one of the few times. That was the only match Daz and I had together the whole weekend, and it's the craziest match ever. And it's a lot of sentimental value for Daz retiring and giving him his flowers in the video. So for anyone who didn't get to watch the new championship history video, go back and watch the day 1 VOD. It's a very cool video.
How was broadcast stuff in general? I got to watch. I didn't get to go, but it seemed like you got to play around with the telestrator and stuff too.
Yes, so the telestrator was very scary because it was live. So it was like every button you press, like they all saw like my me drawing circles, me drawing lines. You know, you always have to make sure some of those lines and circles don't come near each other for obvious, you know, telestrator gaff.
TCG Pictionary issues. Yep.
Gaff reasons, you know. And it was a very stressful job, but I think we're working the kinks out of this analyst host, you know, replay system with the iPad, and Len did a great job like analyzing those matches. We only got to do it once the whole weekend just because we were so swarmed backstage, but I think there are some kinks to work out with the logistics. I think it's like at first they just wanted one person to do it, and I'm like, no, this is a multi-person job. You need the person actually doing the ins and outs on the clips on the iPad, and another person writing down the significant plays, and like, you know, it's a multi-man job. But for the future of our game, it's gonna, I think, bump our production, you know, flair even up higher. So
no. Yeah, like other games where we have that, like I just started my Valorant season, like we have 3 people planning out clips and stuff that were going to be shown that aren't casting, and like our job is solely dedicated to that.
Right.
So like there's a lot that goes into it. So for you to be doing interviewing and that is like a lot.
I did think it's funny that like I just end up being the guinea pig a lot for TVCI for these streams because I was the first VG host. I was the first host of the lounge, right, in San Diego. I was the first SME at Worlds in Yokohama. Like I'm the first person to try this Telecaster iPad thing. Like a lot of times they're just like, we have an idea. Let's just throw Joe to the wolves and see if it, you know, if it works out.
Hey, they trust you. That's a good thing.
Good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's very nerve-wracking, but it's good to be trusted, you know?
My goodness. I think, though, one thing I actually wanted to touch on in terms of the broadcast itself is broadcasted matches versus what the meta actually tends to be. Because when I was watching, like, so for context, day 1, we got to see, we had Groudon versus Zamazenta, then Groudon versus Kyogre, then Kyogre, Mireidon, Ice Rider, Terapagos, Koraidon, Zamazenta, Koraidon, Zamazenta, Terapagos. So the top represented use, like the top restricted in day 1 was Mireidon, which we only saw one of in round 4. And our second top one was Ice Rider, that we only got to see one of in round 5 from Shiliang. Then our 6% usage Pokemon, our Koraidon, we saw 3 of. One Amir, one going up against Zamazenta. And then Groudon, who had 5% usage, we saw 2 of as well. So what we saw on broadcast was actually a lot more of the lower percentage restricted and not necessarily what more of the meta was, which was Mireidon and Ice Rider being the top 2. So then we get into day 2 where Ice Rider is at 24% and we had only seen one on day 1. And then I felt like that was a little bit weird because when the broadcast is a snapshot of what the meta is in the tournament, for our day 1 matches to seem not quite aligned with what actually ended up succeeding, I thought seemed a little bit weird because afterwards when I went and looked at like the day 2, like I was surprised, right? Because it was like, where's the Ice Rider on day 1, right? But then it's also weird because of course you want to pick what seems to be the more interesting matches, which if we don't see Koraidon often or Groudon often, those are the more interesting ones. But it's like, where's like that
we can
level,
add
right?
Justin's a viewer, right? So you're the perfect person to ask, like, what's your perspective? Should we be looking for matches that appropriate the percentage used so we're being accurate to the field, or should we be choosing the most intriguing matches, which we could be wrong on, obviously. We could always be wrong on the match, but they don't necessarily reflect the tournament as a whole.
I think it's fine to have a mix of both. Like, as a viewer, you probably want to see like some of the bigger names play against each other. Like those are like really fun to watch, or like interesting matchups in general. Like Pokemon we don't see every day. Like Zacian, like for example, like Zacian was 8-0 for that 8-0 stream. Like that's cool to see. You want to highlight that, or highlight like niche picks, like like ESM or Michael Zhang, like always using the weird stuff on the Koraidon. Like I feel it's cool seeing like all the Koraidons like not a very common Pokemon, but did end up covering the top cut. I think that was the only thing to really mention of that of all the Pokemon. It's weird to see like I guess Ice Rider. There wasn't many on stream, but like usually with the new the broadcast, they've been doing all the like the XOs, right? Like I was X1 a little bit earlier, for example, so I wasn't stream day one. Same as the rest of my team member group, and maybe that's what kind of what happened. Like even though they convert, it ended up converting well in day two, but with how broadcast works, you want to be streaming the XOs for a bit, right? And that's probably my guess on why we didn't see some of the, I guess, the more common stuff in the metagame for day two.
I think
but
that's my answer too. Is that but like especially with Evan, especially because Evan loves Mireidon, right? Like if there were the Mireidons at 3-0 and 4-0 and 5-0 and 6-0 when we're looking, and they're the popular players, we definitely I think would have pulled them. But I think in those contexts, we were seeing more niche choices from popular players that hopefully people would enjoy watching, and the Mireidons just weren't keeping up with the undefeated tables for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. Like it's not a perfect answer. It's just like more of a talking point because I saw some people were like, wow, this meta seems to be a lot better than how Reg G was. Like, look at all these other things doing well. And it's like, the broadcast is such a small view on like what the tournament is. And then that wasn't actually reflective of what our usage ended up being. It wasn't like, oh, well, because one of those Pokemon I'm sure people would think is too meta and boring would be Ice Rider. And then they're like, wow, we're not seeing Ice Rider. Like, we've gotten to a fun, diverse meta. Okay, mirror match in the finals. We've got how many in top cut? Like, we've got like 7 or so in our top cut. Like, 1/4 of the field for day 2. Like, I don't know. It was interesting. So that was kind of something that I was thinking of. Like, we only get to showcase a little bit, but it was interesting to see how people's opinions for Reg G kind of seemed to be positive because they thought things were a little bit more quirky than they ended up maybe being at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're not showing the full picture. We're only showing a small portion of it, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did hold true to if we only saw one Mireidon on day 1, and then there were no Mireidon in cut. We were kind of right on that one. Worked out there.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like I said, that wasn't a more criticism, just like a thought.
No, I got you. Listen, when I'm hosting, I'm passenger princess backstage. I don't help unless they truly ask me, like the other casters are busy, say, what are your thoughts? I'm not going to overstep. I'm not casting the match. I allow them to just whatever their opinions are. So, any matches, if you have any qualms with any of the matches this weekend, it wasn't me, Dude,
it's not qualms. Maybe
no, not you. I'm saying anyone listening has a qualm with match selection. I was literally finding out when the players went on stage. I'm like, oh, that's a cool match. Like, I was truly not a part of the discussion.
It's just like the match. Like, it's interesting that what matches we pull so heavily influence what people think is good, not good, or how the regulation is, which I thought was just kind of an interesting little thing, because it's
I think it makes
still
sense.
Ice Rider on top, but
the casual viewer will see the broadcast and assume that that's what the metagame is. Like, I was reading some of the YouTube comments and be like, oh wow, all mirror finals, this format's so boring. I'm like, all right, these guys, they only watch on what stream, they don't follow what's up. Like, we were the only 4 people on that team, for example, right? Like, not everyone's looking into that, so it kind of makes sense why they would assume.
All right, I think now's a good time to get into our question of the week, Sarah, because, Justin Tang, he's a busy man. We're fortunate he's even giving us this time right now. He's got coaching, he's got YouTube videos to make. We gotta start wrapping up. All good?
All good.
All right.
All good. I got TFT to play.
Exactly. All right. So we are at the end of our podcast this week. We always end it with a question of the week. If you ever have any burning questions for Sierra and I and our guests, make sure you join our Discord in the description down below and ask us in the question of the week channel. This one's coming from my boy Aldrich. He's a medium fan of Joe Brown. I always love Aldrich.
The name used to be Small Fan. So
okay.
So it's upgraded.
We're on the come up here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's from Aldrich, and he asks, Now that we saw a Tang versus Tang Dream Finals, what would your Dream Finals be? And so the way we'll preface this, it's not commentary, so it's not me and Sierra casting a match, and it's not Tang. I guess, Tang, you can give two answers, like who would your Dream Finals opponent be, and then also if you weren't in Finals, what two players you would want to see. So Dream, Worlds, Masters Finals, what two people would you love to force play each other and see how that plays out?
Okay. That's hard. I never really thought of this. There's so many there's so many good players in rivalries. I guess I'll start with I guess my dream of seeing someone play. I don't know. That's hard. But yeah, I feel like this one's basic, but I'll do it because I feel like Wolf and Xiling would be cool World Finals. They always face each other.
They do always face each other.
Last time they faced, Xiling eliminated him. I think Xiling's one up him in sets now. I think he's 2-1 in them. And if Wolf can even soar. But I also want to see Xiling. I feel like Xiling's one of those players that would be cool to see on the world stage again because he came close last year. And I feel like that's something I could see happening too. I feel like if you want to a script writer, that's something they could put down. I can see that happening either this year or next year or some other time, right? So that's probably for me. And if I had to face a finalist, I think there's so many good players. I think Michael Kelch would be a good one.
That would bang! Oh, that'd be so good.
We started the same year. We both had a similar blast. He made Worlds Finals. I won my first regional. I haven't had a big Worlds Finals like him, but I would love to. And I feel like it's cool because we started around the same time. Well, we did start the same year. So I feel like that would be my dream finalist.
EU and Entei would explode if it was Tang versus Kelch in the finals. That would.
That'd be good. I would have to say, I mean, it's such a basic answer, but at the same time, I think it needs to be said. I'd love to see Peak Wolf going up against Peak Ray Rizzo. Obviously, the debate is who is the greatest Pokemon trainer of all time. And Ray has 3 world championship titles, right? But that was also a very different era. And
one
then
of them was also over Wolf in the finals.
That's true.
Yeah, but that's also beginning. That's why the
young
peak performance.
That's young Wolf.
That's baby Wolf. That's baby Wolf right there, right? But now, we're getting these huge tournaments, and then when Pokemon is a skill, but then also some luck, to still have that level of skill to be able to play through that to get so many top results consistently, I think is just different. So I'm obviously not an old head VGC player, so I maybe disrespect that old phase a little more because I'm just well, Wolf's won a bigger one and he's done this. And then people are no, you don't understand how difficult it was, even if the tournaments are smaller, which is right. I don't understand, right? Where especially in an age where there wasn't any information. I was in VGC in the age where there's 1.5 million informations out there, right? So I think it would be so interesting to see Peak Ray, Peak Wolf, and then that would be so storied. And you also get an answer, right? That is the definitive answer for the rest of the time, especially if that's a world final or something. And I think too, with how good Ray is of a player, if he was able to play more in this day and age, I know that he's tried to, and there was an unfortunate circumstance to not being able to compete in 2023. I think.
Yeah, it was Yokohama.
Yeah.
He had a switch issue or whatever.
Yeah,
so stuff like that.
I would love to see, just a full comeback. This is Ray, and that would explode the internet.
No, I think it's a very fair answer. Everyone always says 2012 Ray, that's the peak year. That's the best he was. So if we take peak Ray, we know Wolf now is a significantly better player than he was back then, right? So if you take peak Wolf now versus peak Ray of 2012, we'll choose another format for it to make that would be a pretty hype matchup. I think for me, I'm torn between a couple of names. I think selfishly, I have to include Seijun in the match. I think I'd be a fraud if I didn't. So he's at least player A in this World Finals. And my other two names, I'm between Shohei and Ryota for the other side. Just because Ryota, when he won Worlds with Whimsicott, and like 2017 was just like great format, and like he was my favorite player. And then I met him in Nashville the next year and got to talk to him and take a selfie, and like he was just the coolest guy. And Ryota to this day is still making bonkers teams if you follow him on Twitter. Right? Yeah. So like Ryota is still the craziest team builder out there. And then you have the Seijun aspect of it. But then like Shohei more recently has been one of my favorite players of all time, at least the
ever since you embarrassed yourself
since I
in front of him at
myself.
Worlds.
Exactly. So if I had to flip a coin, I'd probably say Seijun versus Shohei, but I love Ryota. I also love Naoto too. Like, oh my god, if Naoto had a third Worlds final, that's such a tough call. I'm gonna lock in Seijun and Shohei.
Okay, that's solid.
I was thinking of Seijun on like the list of like dreams, but I got to cast Seijun and Aaron Zhang. It wasn't a finals, but that was still a really cool match. So like I'm like, you know what? I already got to live with that dream, so now I want to see the other dream, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. All right. Anything else from us, or is this where we wrap up?
Where can we find you? Everyone has to go follow the YouTube, follow the socials.
So Twitter, Unironic Panda. YouTube's basically the same thing, but it's a -VGC. It's linked into my Twitter too, so it'll be easier to find there. And that's really it for my socials. Yeah.
Thank you again for coming on to the podcast.
We'll see you in August.
See you in August.
Yeah, we're renting out, like, Tang was on the podcast a few weeks ago, ends up winning the next event, so we're renting out spaces to any competitors that need the OHKO buff going into their next event.
It's real. Yeah.
You heard it here first. It is a real thing. But if you made it to this point in the podcast, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to be joining the Discord so you can get in on the question of the week, the OHKO team that's being built now that we've had that free coaching from Justin, and to be able to just talk with a community of awesome people. Thank you again for listening in. We will see you next week on OHKO.